of the year, that's totally fine. You need the extra fat, you need meat for warmth. You don't really need carbs because they're not there. I mean, you need milk, which has
So there's this common myth that you need fat for warmth, and I don't know where it comes from. Yeah,
I was going to ask.
Yeah, I don't know if Brandon knows, but potentially it could be that fat is more calorie dense, so it's easier to get enough calories. But maybe that's why they sort of tried to make the link. But yeah, everyone says this. Even my mom says this.
I have no idea. Like, having more fat on your physical body, I've heard helps keep you warm. Like being a bigger person, but consuming fat, if you're like really lean, it's not going to help you stay warm. That wouldn't make any sense. And also, like, the language here, he's saying you need to consume. Like, where is that coming from? Like, there's no need to consume anything.
Prescriptive. It's amazing how he's, again, incredibly comfortable just saying this shit.
No, there's a famous expedition guy from I think it's South Africa called Mike Horn. And I read that when he did his expeditions, he used to freeze cubes of olive oil and he used to suck them because he was burning so many calories when he was doing his treks in cold environments. So that's just an extra point to add that fat is more calorie dense. If you need more calories, it's a good option to add in, especially if it's unsaturated fat instead of saturated fat, because over long-term saturated fat increases your risk of heart disease.
Keep preaching, Patrick. That's what we like to hear. Absolutely.
Tons of carbs in itself, but you're not going to eat starches and plants and stuff. I need carbs. I definitely need them. I cannot.
I love
eat
that.
a zero carb
I
diet
need
because
carbs. I need carbs. That should have been the the thumbnail to the.
Well, I haven't watched the video, so my thumbnail was incredibly uncharitable. It was just, I'm no longer a lion, though.
No, I think your thumbnail is actually better than what's in this video. That would have been fine if he was like, "Hey guys, I realized I'm not a lion. It's good to eat carbs." That would have been way better than this.
Yeah, the best would be, of course, we can't go on without mentioning several times. The best would be, I've realized that animals have a moral worth and decided to minimize my impact on them.
100%.
But
so far, it never happens.
Everything up for me. It fucked shit up. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But back to these things that I was studying.
Why isn't he saying what was wrong, though?
So vague.
Was it a 2.5-year-long diarrhea or something?
I think Patrick was right in the beginning. I think he probably had some erectile dysfunction or something affecting his like manliness, and he doesn't want to talk about it because he's gonna they're all carnivore community is all about testosterone, like Patrick was saying. I think it was his testosterone. I think he had trouble with his manliness, his manhood, and he's like ashamed to talk about it. I think that's what it was.
So I would say it could be testosterone because they deny ApoB, LDL cholesterol. Maybe it could have been liver enzymes as well, or something to do with his kidneys. But in terms of what would affect someone of this sort of profile following the carnivore diet, it would probably be testosterone or estrogen.
All right. Guys, actually, I need to go take a break for a minute. Talk amongst yourselves, okay?
Cool, we can chat, yeah.
My chat can panic. Starting now.
So my stream, Bianca says, Gundry is a total snake oil salesman.
100%.
Yeah.
I can't believe he was, even with the worst part about that was his smoking claims. Like, I always find that all these people who like reject epidemiology or who have these really high standards for evidence, they usually don't apply that consistently to smoking. And Dr. Matthew Nagra had some really good debates. I watched them recently, older debates of carnivores where the carnivores are like, I believe smoking causes cancer or whatever. And he points out how the evidence for smoking, for light smoking, is very similar to the evidence we have for red meat. But Dr. Gundry, apparently, I guess he's the first consistent one because he was like, well, we don't know that they lived till 80 despite the smoking. They could have lived till 80 because of the smoking, That was crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, it went quite big on social media, that clip, especially. I was not too familiar of his work. I know he's big on sort of anti-nutrients. So he's like
lectins,
a lot of lectins. He's got a book on it, right? Are you familiar with what he's written?
I think his book is The Plant Paradox. I haven't read it. I don't know anything, but based on that debate, his big thing is like sugar. So his big thing is sugar, even in fruits, right? He says you got to eat the right size apple. So his big thing is sugar. His big thing is lectins. He is anti-meat. So he does say he's not pro-meat, but yeah, he's kind of fear-mongering lectins and fruit and sugar.
Also seasonal. I think he said that if you don't eat fruit based on the season,
it's too much fruit, yeah.
Yeah, but the health outcome data considers, the whole year. Winter, when fruits aren't available, people go into the supermarket. It takes into account seasonal variations. So.
All right, we're ready?
Ready.
Right, all animals are in ketosis. Well, we are not like all animals. And there's a reason why there are no natural groups at all that are in ketosis. Maybe animals, sure. Maybe monkeys and cows. Cows will take grass, ferment it, and then they'll produce ketones. That's great, but not humans. Because humans, all the natural groups, Hansa, Nicoya, any centenarian group, the people in the Mediterranean, these groups throughout Italy who live a super long time, these are not low-carb groups at all, none of them. The only ones who had some success with low carbs were the Inuit, and crazy thing is, Inuit can't even get into ketosis. That's the crazy thing. So everyone points to the Inuit as this group that shows the power of the carnivore diet, when the Inuit cannot even get into ketosis. This was almost certainly an adaptation they made in order to...
Adaptation, but not evolution. Anything to add, Patrick, about...
No, it seems perhaps he stumbled upon Dr. Nagra's video, which I mentioned earlier. He made a reel on this exact topic. So.
All right.
Offset the negative effects of a zero-carb diet. They can't get into ketosis, so they make their own sugars because it's a clear sign that long-term ketosis, prolonged ketosis, would lead to the ultimate termination of their civilization. They wouldn't be able to procreate anymore. It's basically an anti-fertility diet in many cases.
You were right, Patrick.
Anti-fertility. Yep, yep, exactly. Yep, Patrick, you called it spot on, and I do think his symptoms had to do with his, I had to do with ED. I do. I really do, because I think he's gonna allude to that a lot, even though he's not gonna say it. But what's crazy to me is I'm not pro keto. I don't really know much about keto diets in a vegan sense, so I'm not pro keto. But I would never say I would never make a claim that keto diets will kill you or you can't do keto. I just don't know, so I'm not going to make the claim. But he seems to be confident now, so I don't know.
No, I'll add that there are studies with, long-term sort of studies, not lifelong, but 10 years. I've seen cohort studies of people doing healthful keto diets, and they seem to have okay outcomes. The ones eating more unsaturated oils, more plant protein, and so I'm not confident as well making the claim that the keto diet is unhealthy long-term. I just don't, it's so hard to adhere to, but there are low-carb, nutritionists, evidence-based, who also promote the more healthful version, which is more towards a plant-exclusive diet in that direction, which is the general theme we see across the literature. So, yeah, it seems like it could be possible to, adhere to long-term. But so I would also not be comfortable making the claim that the keto diet is, toxic long-term or dangerous, whatever these words that they use.
Cases. The Inuit are a testament to this. Why would it be, and this is what I want people to actually explain to me if I'm wrong here, why would it be that carnivore is the optimal diet for everyone if there is an adaptation in the Inuit that selects against the continuation of being able to get into ketosis?
I mean, he's doing the same thing, isn't he? He still assumes that A, that adaptation is somehow not evolution, and B, that, if the adaptation in this population is such, then it's carnivore is the best for humans. If the adaptation is different, then carnivore is not. Well, all of this is bullshit, my lovely, because how can you infer anything from whatever humans ate at some point?
Yeah, he's still going off of this group did that group did that, instead of just following the peer-reviewed science. Yeah, he's still doing the same trap. I agree.
Yeah, and then looking at just these small mechanisms can lead to very absurd positions, such as, for example, humans, we can convert beta-carotene to vitamin A. But so someone could just say, why don't we all just have a diet only carrots? Because our body is designed to create, vitamin A from beta-carotene. So, an only carrot diet is the optimal diet.
Well, that would be something that he would deny, wouldn't he? That beta-carotene can be
converted.
I don't know. Maybe he won't deny it. Who knows?
I mean, that's part of the carnivore bundle. So maybe he shed it at this point, but he must have spouted that at some point. I think I remember him spouting the min nutrient thing against the vegan diet, right? And one of that is vitamin A. So he was at some point convinced that on a vegan diet you can't get vitamin A. So
Oh yeah, that meme which always goes around, which has even got vitamins that don't exist, such as vitamin F. Just that it's the meme of, the sort of a disheveled vegan saying, show me that, like a giga chad saying, vegan diets are deficient in this, and this, and then the vegan that's saying, show me the studies, and he's sort of, is this the one you're talking about?
yep.
Yeah.
Did anybody ever debunk that meme thoroughly? I think Lifting with Logic didn't it?
He's got a good debunk of that meme.
All right, awesome. I was about to propose, let's do it together. I'll host. I know nothing about this shit, but I'll add entertainment or something.
Why would that be the case? Why is it that the Maasai consume raw milk? They consume tons of carbs through raw milk and blood. Probably more carbs than the average American does. Why would they do that? Why would the Hunza, who are...
I'll add... So yeah, these tribes, they're living in extreme situations. So just because someone's eating someone in an extreme situation doesn't mean it's the optimal diet, such as, yeah. You got something to add, Brandon, to that?
No, I just, whenever somebody brings up what about indigenous tribes or whatever, I always like to make the point that, like, these tribes are not just lacking vegan food. They're lacking healthcare. They're lacking secure shelter. They're lacking food security in general most of the time, right? If we're talking about tribes that have to hunt, that do it for survival, they're lacking a lot of other things besides just access to vegan food. So we need to give them that access on top of everything else.
Yeah, they're lacking the most important thing, which is the exchange of ideas. All they have is their own culture.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Consume breads and consume grains and apricots, as well as tons of raw dairy products. They have a high carb diet. A lot of these groups have high carb diets, and they call it a high carb diet. Why would this be the case? And this is not to make fun of the carnivores, because I did it for 2 years. I'm not trying to be a dick or anything, but
It's just so funny to me, right? I did it for 2 years, so I can't shit on it. I can't admit that I was wrong and I was just a dumbass.
Yeah, he's kind of just saying, oh, the carnivore diet's fine. It just wasn't fine for me. That's kind of what he's saying, which is just, again, that's what you get when you have somebody purely going off of their own experience, right? They're just talking about what's fine for them, which is fine. Like if there was a disclaimer, right, that was like, hey, don't listen to me. Follow the science. Follow the peer-reviewed science. This is just my experience. That's fine, but they don't do that. They talk as if they are gods.
Brandon, you've been incredibly uncharitable. Joey here, young Joey, did a huge amount of research and he read all the books.
He has all of the knowledge. He is life. Guys, he is life. Don't forget.
He is life. I think I'm going to put it in my Twitter bio. I am life.
Do the people in the carnivore community usually admit that there are tribes following high carb diets, or is this something new?
Yeah, no, I was actually going to say too, thank you for reminding me, that all of the carnivores, they point to these tribes and say, look how many animal products they're eating. I've never heard anybody talk about the carbs. So that's actually interesting that he brought that up. I would be interesting to fact check.
Yeah, the gatherer part of hunter-gatherer tribes is usually swept under the rug a little bit. So, if we don't look at it and don't say it, it doesn't exist.
I've seen some research with them, with the paper stating potentially the Hadza were eating, I think, 80 grams worth of fiber to 100 per day. It seems extremely high. So I don't know if that's true, but yeah. Again, why are we trying to look for them for some optimal form of health?
Yeah, that's the problem I usually have on Twitter. I'm trying to cut down on that shit. The problem I have is going into the rabbit hole when I should be like, what are you, just pointing out. So what? Like, right? It's just the ridiculousness of the claim in the first place. Yeah.
Genuinely, I really want to have this conversation and kind of start this, but back up again, because it doesn't make sense to me. Like, somebody make it make sense. None of these groups are doing low carb. None of them. So if carbs are so poisonous, if they're so toxic, why are these groups still thriving in spite of consuming high carb diets?
Well, do carnivores claim that carbs simpliciter are poisonous? No, they say it's the oxalates and blah, blah, blah. No?
I don't think I've heard the claim that from carnivores that carbs, like just any carbs, are poisonous. I think I've heard the claim that carbs are the reason for most of our chronic diseases. So maybe that's what he means. I've heard carnivores claim that carbs are what causes diabetes. Carbs, the consumption of carbs in addition to animal products is why people get heart disease. It's not the animal products, it's the carbs. So if you took out the carbs and only ate animal products, no heart disease. That's what I've heard. So maybe that's what he's referring to.
Yeah, I've seen some people say that because our body can produce carbs from protein, for example, that this means why do we need to eat carbohydrates? And again, just health outcome data. This is all we're gonna keep on drilling in. People eating carbs. There is heterogeneity. So refined carbs tend to be less beneficial in higher doses, whilst more whole grains tend to be more beneficial.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't understand, right? If humans are supposed to be so good on only meat, why did I feel like shit? Why did it fuck me up in the end, right? And now, guys, I feel better than I've ever felt before. I look better. Like, everything is good in my life right now. And yeah, I started to get outside more. I left a stressful environment, which was used.
I mean, again, he just adds confounding in, right? Just by talking about it. It's like, I feel better than ever. I'm also going outside, as if it's like some kind of a separate thing that happens due to his diet, like because of the diet. It couldn't be that, oh, maybe there's a reverse causality a little bit here. You're going more outside and therefore you feel better for some reason. I don't know. When I go outside, I burn in flames. So
yeah, again, placebo effect. And you change something, most people feel better, at least for a couple of weeks when they do something new and they think it's going to be, health promoting for them. And yeah, going outside is, I don't think eating meat while changing your diet makes you go outside.
Well,
something psychological there, probably.
What I will say is if you start eating carbs, right? Carbs can help with your mood maybe, and also his sex drive. I guarantee you he's talking about a sex drive. Everything about him tells me he's talking about a sex drive. So he probably had more confidence, probably because his sex drive improved, maybe has a better mood because he's eating carbs now, and now he just wants to go enjoy the sun, What are you going to do?
Yeah. Just wanted some bread at the end of the day, perhaps. Some avocado toast.
Yeah, somebody pointed out that that is not many views for a channel of his size. Strange, isn't it?
Wait a second. Let's look at that comment for a second. Hold on. It says, could it be you felt unwell during that time because you took the juice? Was he on steroids? That would be, I don't know if he documented, I don't know if that's just somebody trolling or whatever, but if he was on steroids, that's a whole nother thing.
Don't know.
Also,
I mean, he's pretty buff, by what people say. He's pretty well built. Maybe he was doing TRT to try to improve his T status.
Oh my God, that's a great point. Yeah, maybe. Oh, that would be interesting. Wow, this guy is just getting more and more outlandish as we go on.
Really, I really hope he lays it out what his problem was and such later on. Maybe like for the... it's the problem. He should have done it in this video, even if for the reason of carnivores still being subscribed to him, right? So then the carnivores would hear his stories and maybe something would resonate, whatever. I don't know.
UCLA. I made a lot of good changes to my life. I started, and one of those big changes that I made was I started to eat more plant foods, more carbs. That's really what I started to do, and I felt my energy go up a lot. I felt like hormonally I was way better off, libido better, stronger, like everything better.
Yeah, libido better. Yes, finally he admits it. There we go.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you can say that it's because I did it incorrectly when I was literally one of the pioneers in carnivore. Nobody was doing carnivore better than me, to be like, and I'm no bullshit. Like, I was doing it perfect. I tried the fasting thing. I tried eating a shit ton, like bowls and bowls of grass-finished tallow. I was eating some organs rarely,
oh my
right,
God.
in moderation.
Oh my God, bowls and bowls of tallow. I can't imagine the agony. I can't imagine, dude.
I was doing the perfect carnivore diet.
As he said, yeah, I was the pioneer. He was the pioneer. No one can tell him he was doing it wrong.
How long was he doing it for? How long was he carnivore?
He said
I got
2 years.
the impression it was like
at least. Yeah, at least from what he said at the start.
Sorry, what? What was it?
At least 2 years, I would guess, from what he said at the start, because he said he was sort of promoting it for 2 years. So,
and also when you're a pioneer, let's just break this down for a second. There's no research supporting the diet. And if you are the one that pioneered it, you essentially like made the guidelines, created it. How does he know what's right or what's wrong? What is he basing, like how he did his carnivore diet? What is he basing that off of?
That's a good point.
Yeah, pioneers are normally the ones who sort of create it, right? That's
Yeah.
what pioneer means.
And they usually
also-
get it wrong at first. Like you look at any pioneer in any other like any other field, they usually don't get everything right, and then people make it better and better and better. That's usually how it goes.
But also was claiming that he was a pioneer and been doing it for only 2 years. How can he claim that? We know of prominent ex-carnivores like Paul Saladino and Frankie Tufano. Frankie Tufano started the carnivore diet like 9 years ago, didn't he?
That's true. There's also Spherage. Spherage was huge a few years ago too. So yeah, I don't know where he's getting that from either. That's interesting.
Oh God, Brendan, I forgot about Spherage. Thank you for reminding me.
Oh, he's my favorite. Spherage is my favorite. You've got to love Spherage, man.
Tell me about it one day, please.
When I craved it, only when I craved it, I would eat organs. I would eat some cooked, sometimes raw.
Wait, I'd like to
with
add-
all the highest
I'd like to
quality
add
stuff
something.
with
Sorry.
Yeah, he said only when I craved organs, I would eat organs. Craving something is no indication. You know, if someone craves cookies, it doesn't mean that just if you only eat cookies, you know, because you're craving it all day, it'll be a healthful choice.
Dude, the worst thing I've ever heard is a carnivore when they say, "Oh, if kids don't like vegetables, they're actually eating intuitively, and they should follow that intuition. They know the vegetables have the anti-nutrients in them." It is like the craziest thing I've ever heard. I don't know how they think that's a good argument at all.
They should just be honest and say, you know what, I don't know how to cook my vegetables.
Or
When
they...
kids
Oh, go ahead, sir.
eat poop sometimes. At least in the old days, in my days, when what's his name, the diapers weren't so tight, kids would get to their own poop and just fucking eat it.
No, that's a good point. Like, I ate all types of awful things. I love, like, bologna. As a kid, is bologna, like, should I just... Well, they might say yes, so never mind. But Cap'n Crunch, I ate a lot of Cap'n Crunch. So, I don't know what we're talking about.
Apparently, to my dad, I used to, up until about a year and a half, old, I used to eat just raw potato and call it an apple. And they couldn't stop me until one day they just decided to wean me off that shit. So I guess I was craving raw potatoes. Fuck.
What's Captain Crunch?
What?
Is that a cereal? Is that a cereal? Or...
Wait.
Yeah.
Have either of you had Cap'n Crunch?
No.
What?
I almost never had cereal at all.
Oh, because you guys are not from the U.S. Oh my God. So yeah, I forget. I feel like cereals are not that prominent outside of the U.S. Right? For breakfast?
No, they are pretty prominent in
No,
Europe, I am.
I've been to Europe. I've seen the cereal. It's not like the cereal we have here. Okay, like yeah, you guys have cereal, but it's different. So so it's not Captain Crunch. It's Cap'n Crunch. So CAP''N. You have to say it like that. So it's Cap'n Crunch. And it is vegan, by the way. So I know a lot of cereals are fortified and it's not vegan. It's vegan. It's made by Quaker, the same company that does the oats. It is the best cereal in the entire world. It's super sweet, and it's the best. It's so good. I eat it to this day. It's really, really good.
You'll be happy to know then that cereals generally are pretty good in the health outcomes. So especially
one.
fortified.
Not this one.
Fortified. Is it fortified with vitamins?
Slightly, but this one is really high in sugar, low in fiber, and
No whole grains?
If you do crunch berries, so there's Cap'n with crunch berries, it's got a bunch of food coloring and more sugar. So yeah, no, not ideal, but
Not whole grain?
I would say, I'm sure, most cereals, they try and make it a little whole grain, but let me put it this way. It's not like Cheerios. It's crazy, but it's so good. If you ever go to the US or have a chance to get Cap'n Crunch, I urge you to try it with some soy milk. It's very good.
I would eat some cooked, sometimes raw, and all of the highest quality stuff with cuts around the bones to get the optimal collagen ratio. I was doing it right, guys, and it still fucked me up because my body was so stressed out trying to make carbohydrates out of proteins, which is a stressful process. Gluconeogenesis is a stress-provoking process that I didn't need to put myself through. And I'm so glad I did carnivore still. I'm so glad I did it.
It's like zigzagging into I'm getting vertigo.
Mm-hmm. He's backtracking and then going forward and then backtracking. He's not having a consistent point here.
I'm so glad I put my body through this terrible thing that puts stress on my body. Jesus Christ. Well, let's hear him out. Maybe there's a reason why he was glad that he did the carnivore diet despite detriment to his health.
I could give you one reason: the 7K a month. I mean,
Yeah.
he's like, you know, I made so much money in that first year, in those 2 years. I don't regret anything. Yeah, I wouldn't regret it either.
Because
Let me show you how we do stuff around here. Actually, my department
Damn.
uses Monday.com, so I'm good. Work.
if I hadn't done it, I would never have gotten to the point where I'm at now, where I feel like I'm way closer to the truth. The only thing that's gonna bring us closer to the truth is making mistakes. But at the same time, I think it's a little bit of a frightening message that carnivore is a solution to everything. And guys, you guys all know this. I did so many carnivore interviews. I did so many of them. So many incredible success stories. People who were sick, who had like epilepsy, like everything you could imagine, like everything. I interviewed them, and I did great interviews too. There were great interviews, great success stories, and so I'm not oblivious to the potential for the carnivore diet to be extreme.
He almost said effect there. I'm not oblivious to effects of a carnivore diet, but then he switched to potential. Interesting.
This guy's got a
therapeutic.
huge ego. Sorry, I was just gonna say this guy's like got a huge ego. He just thinks everything he did was great. I mean, his interviews were awful. They were not good. They were not. There was nothing like scientific about them. They were just, yeah.
Did you watch a few of them?
I think so. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
but-
I at least watched one or two. Yeah.
I understand that. But I also understand now that depriving yourself of carbohydrates is not the solution in most cases, but depriving yourself of carbohydrates that are sprayed with pesticide, of carbohydrates that are refined, of carbohydrates that are infused with red 40 and dyes and artificial sweeteners and things like that, that makes more sense to me.
Patrick?
It seems he's still in the purest attitude when the health outcome data takes into account all of these chemicals, though. You know, just because something's got a name which you cannot pronounce or has a long list of ingredients, it doesn't really matter if the health outcome data demonstrates that it's generally positive on health.
Also, what about artificial sweeteners? From last time I'm aware that the data on artificial sweeteners are fine, right? Have you looked into
Yeah,
that?
artificial. Yeah, there's even some studies which compare it to water, and in terms of weight loss, artificial sweeteners do comparably, and in some cases even better than water. Some people can speculate on why this is. Potentially, who knows? Maybe just drinking something sweet prevents you to not want to snack compared to someone drinking just water. That's a potential explanation. But generally, I wouldn't recommend, if someone doesn't feel they need them, it's not something to have in your diet. Like, it's not a necessity. But I love, yeah.
Yeah, it's always
Coke
compared
Zero.
to what, right? So like, if you are fine drinking water and eating very minimal added sugar, then yeah, don't do that sweeteners. But if the sweeteners are going to help you eat less added sugar and eat less food overall, like to not overconsume calories, then they're great. And I do feel that, like, when I drink like a sugar-free vitamin water every now and then, and I immediately am like, okay, I don't need to eat something sweet, or like whatever craving I have is like subsided. So I also get that with smoothies. So I go with the smoothies too, but
Yeah, I've got the same thing. But generally, even in terms of artificial sweeteners on effects such as mortality, I haven't seen anything to suggest that just consuming more of it is, sort of detrimental. Maybe if I would recommend someone to not drink it if they don't like them, just for, precautionary principle. But there's nothing to, suggest that they are detrimental to health of strong nature, because you can always find outliers and stuff, or evidence which points different directions. It's about looking at the overall totality of evidence. And
yeah, I agree.
All right.
I think the reason why the carnivore diet is so effective for so many people is not because of the fact that they're eating more meat or that they're eating less carbs,
I can't wait. I'm truly on the edge of my seat.
but
I will add
carbs.
that for a lot of people, just eating, an elimination diet can help them potentially eat less calories. And then for example, type 2 diabetes remission, it's driven by weight loss. So that can help people with their, their cardiometabolic, diabetes, biomarkers. And then, less calories potentially, then potentially less sort of junk food, which we commonly think of. And Brandon, do you have any other ideas of why people feel good on could be placebo effect
On what, on
as
carnivore
well?
diet?
Yeah, so less calories, placebo effect.
Placebo effect for sure. Also, because keep in mind, most people who do carnivore, they fill their brains with a lot of misinformation leading up to it. So they have all these expectations that, oh, this diet's going to be optimal for my health. This diet's going to lead me to cure all my ailments. I'm going to feel the brain fog will be lifted. I'm going to have less depression. So you have all these expectations. The second you go into it, yeah, you're going to feel great. But also, yeah, I agree. Probably you take out processed foods. So like I did I think his name's Lee, but he goes by Kent Carnivore. So he did a video, I reacted to his video where he was talking about how he cured his depression, right? Cured his depression. But then in a video with Sean Baker, he's talking about how first of all, he got his colon removed. That's very depressing and depressive. What am I saying? That can lead to feelings of depression for sure, because you're dealing with a major surgery. He was drinking. So he mentions in the video, he was doing multiple drinks in the evening. So he was drinking, he got his colon removed. He, was struggling with he said something else, I think something with sleep or something, but yeah, like there's so many things that can affect your mood or affect how you feel. And when he went carnivore, guess what you can't do on a carnivore diet? You can't drink, right? So he's taking out multiple things, he's eliminating multiple factors at once and just attributing it all to the carnivore diet.
Yeah, this reminds me of a interview I saw between, I think it was Carnivore Kid or somebody else. I don't know. I'm not very savvy in remembering all the carnivores. And some carnivore lady who said, so the tagline of the interview was that she put herself in remission from cancer, from bowel cancer. And then in the first minutes of the fucking interview, she says she underwent surgery, she underwent chemotherapy. Like, it blows my fucking mind. How can you say that you're in a remission from cancer when you underwent so many treatments which would put you in a remission of cancer? And then you went on a stupid meme diet and you attribute everything to that.
It's very, very misleading. And again, like some things are going to have longer effects, like cocaine, right? I hear that when you do cocaine, you feel like a superhero, okay? For a little bit, and then you drop down and you can get dependent on it. It has a lot worse long-term health outcomes than it does acute like positive feelings or positive effects. So same thing with the diet, it might just take a little longer. In his case, it took probably 1.5 years, right? By the time he figured, everything he figured out. He still did it for probably another 6 months, but so there's no telling as to when we're dealing with like human psychology also, it's just so complex. Like there's really no telling how powerful the mind can be.
Yeah, and something I also like to add is that some people may have an intolerance to something specific, and then when you just only eat one specific food product, it can help you sort of eliminate the foods causing the issue, rather than seeing a dietitian who can sort of do tests on you to try and identify what's causing the discomfort. And then there's some research which actually suggests when you're for a prolonged time not eating certain foods, it can be difficult to actually introduce them back in after a while.
Yeah, that's the case with gluten, isn't it? That if you abstain from gluten for a while, you actually develop like a gluten intolerance or something. I read that somewhere. Did I read something stupid?
I haven't seen this. I'll need to take a look into this. But yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask because with people like obsessed with elimination, so like let's say you have a food intolerance, right? And carnivore diet is one elimination diet, right? We just eat steak. But how do you feel about somebody doing an elimination diet eating just like white potatoes? So like if like hypothetically, couldn't somebody just eat white, like skinless white potatoes, so low fiber, low whatever, let's say a lot of people aren't allergic to potatoes. So they're just eating white potatoes for a week. Wouldn't that achieve like a desired effect?
So there's this type of diet, it's called the low FODMAP diet. So FODMAPs, they're fermentable carbohydrates, and they include things such as lactose, oligosaccharides from beans and stuff like this. So there is a sort of similar sort of diet in this direction where you only eat things which cannot be fermented in the gut. And then after a few weeks of your symptoms going down, you then add in you go through different phases of adding in the different types of fermentable carbohydrates, and you try and identify which group is causing the issue.
That's the thing is like, everyone's always like, well, I was experiencing these, so I went on this elimination diet, it cured me. It's like, you didn't have to kill animals for that. You didn't have to pay for the exploitation of animals. You could have either done a low FODMAP diet or just, if you're that desperate, eat nothing but skinless potatoes for 1 week and then start introducing different foods. Like, I feel like people, they just jump ship too quickly. Like, find another solution.
To be fair, to be too fair, I think the vegan FODMAP diet is horrifically restrictive low FODMAP diet. It's basically like 10 foods, which, yeah, I think that could be done. But to an omnivore, that might seem like a overly limiting task, wouldn't it?
I know, but the carnivore diet is, well, the way that people traditionally do it is just steak. So, like, at least with FODMAPs, you get 10 foods. With the carnivore, it's like you just eat steak for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, maybe some butter. That sounds miserable to me, but I don't know. Maybe people love steak and butter more than I do, and that's why I don't get it. I don't know.
Oh man, I used to legendarily love meat. I mean, my friends still tell tales about it.
Really?
How much I love the meat.
So because I come from a background, I stopped eating red meat and most meat in general when I was freshman year in high school. So when I was like 15, I just wasn't into it. I ate chicken and stuff for protein because I was in the gym and stuff. But so were you like a big meat eater before you went vegan?
Oh yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool to hear from somebody because that's not my background.
Yeah, I was more chicken nuggets and fish fingers, as I said.
That food, it wouldn't even cross my mind to eat that kind of food. And I don't think I ever ate a chicken nugget.
But back to what we were talking about. Ideally, instead of someone just experimenting, they should go see an expert, because people are not qualified to sort of do experiments on themselves. And,
again, to be very charitable, but actually like to be cautious. Some people who call themselves expert give terrible advice, especially in the dietary world, especially registered dietitians, frankly. And sometimes people substitute in the mind nutritionists, and they give them way too much clout because nutritionists give themselves way too much clout. And those people have terrible advice, in my experience.
Yeah, so nutritionists, normally they cannot become a registered dietitian. You have to do a special course in dietetics. So nutritionists, normally they know more about how to read the literature, and analyze epidemiology. So got a point on that one. Yeah,
I work in a hospital, and sometimes part of my job is to go into the files of people, and all the people who work in the dietary office, they are registered dietitians in the hospital, obviously. Their advice is A, terrible, and B, like linear to everybody is the fucking same. Just eat eggs and cheese and low fat meat, basically. Okay.
So there's always, maybe where you are, there's lots of bad or sort of dietitians who you don't think are that great, but I don't know. I would like to give people the benefit of the doubt and hope that they're, but I guess people should probably visit a vegan dietitian.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely better to visit some kind of, at least somebody who's educated on nutrition versus just you going on YouTube videos. So at least, maybe even if you get a bad nutritionist, a bad registered dietitian, it usually will be better than going on an all meat diet. So that's definitely going to save you something there.
Yeah, I think you got a point there, Brandon.
But I appreciate for some people it might be difficult. They might not have the opportunity. Yeah, I don't know where you guys are, if it's expensive would it be expensive where you two are to find a dietitian?
I mean, we don't have, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know, because in the US, we have private healthcare, typically, like not many things are covered. So yeah, you pretty much have to pay for everything. So I would say there are a lot of great services online. Like if you are really struggling, you do have to pay for help, but I think depending on your situation, it's worth it. Like typically if you're worried about your health and you're willing to buy grass-fed beef to fix it, you have the money for a dietitian appointment or a nutritionist or some type of consultation. Because we're not talking about people in poverty who are eating fast food, who could care less and have 3 kids to take care of, right? We're talking about people who are going to buy the highest, most costly grass-fed meat there is to try and fix their ailments. So.
Mm-hmm. With amazing studios to record their story.
Right.
Here we do have universal healthcare. Everything costs, but incredibly subsidized. But the waiting list to, like, say, a NRD, first of all, if you're not obese, you cannot get there. But I found out if you're vegan, You might, because people are still very, or at least the healthcare providers are still a little bit cautious about vegan diets. So I was actually was able to get not an appointment, because I never made it, because I took out my tooth and took some antibiotics, and whatever problems I had just went away. I could have, and it wouldn't cost me that much. The problem is finding someone that is actually qualified and isn't anti-vegan. That would be my problem. And I did find one, but then I fixed my problems other ways. Yeah.
Of the fact that they're eating more meat or that they're eating less carbs, but they're eating less toxins. I mean, meat is incredibly nutritious. It is the most important part of the human diet by far.
Sorry, Patrick, do you know what is usually meant by toxins?
It's for the carnivore community, it seems like they're mostly talking about anti-nutrients or pesticides on crops. But yeah, meat also contains microplastics, and animals also eat what vegans are eating. So I don't see how.
Meat is also a fucking body, so it contains all kinds of stuff.
There was a recent paper I saw. It was to do with microplastics, and tofu, for example, is extremely low on microplastics. And
Interesting.
No doubt about it. However, when you take out carbohydrates, you are not seeing a benefit because you don't have sugar anymore. You're seeing a benefit because you took off a bunch of garbage. Now, between the three macronutrients, we have fats, proteins, and carbs. The industrialization of food, okay, in other words, food becoming more centralized, less small farms, more large agriculture, more glyphosate, things of that nature. The industrialization of food was most problematic for carbs. Why is that? Well, let's take an animal, let's take a cow.
Was it? More problematic for carbs, the industrialization of food.
He's just saying stuff. I don't even know if he's going to go back to his God, his divine force claim either. Like, I think he's just spewing whatever is coming to his mind. There's no evidence for that. I don't know what he's even means. I think he's going to explain what he means, but I have a lot of doubt that it's going to make any sense.
Frankly, I'm coming kind of to my end of listening to him. I appreciate the conversation with you guys, but I don't know if we should continue for too long with this fella. What do you say?
We can wrap it up. You mentioned glyphosate. So again, I've got a few comprehensive, I've seen quite a good paper on glyphosate and cancer risk, and there wasn't really sort of any strong link found and no associations really. So
I don't know if you guys want to skim through it, because I just want to hear his God claim. That's all. I just want to know if he goes back to that, because he's just going to mention that his whole reason for not being carnivore is that he knows what he knows now, and he's just not going to come back to that. Like, he's not going to tell us what he knows. I'm confused.
We can watch in 2x speed.
Yep.
You feed a cow pesticide-sprayed grains, it's going to be able to get rid of some of that. It's not all going to assimilate into tissues. Some of it, yes, you're going to get some pesticide, but cows also are ruminants. Therefore, something filter all that shit.
No, I can't. I'm sorry. I can't understand anything he says. Jesus Christ.
You feed a cow pesticide-sprayed grains, it's going to be able to get rid of some of that. It's not all going to assimilate into tissues. Some of it, yes, you're going to get some pesticide, but cows also are ruminants. Therefore, something they can filter all that shit out. Humans.
What? Do we have any evidence for that? That cows can filter through pesticides?
So again, no evidence, just like with the glyphosate, he didn't provide any evidence, and
Not so much. So when you have your carbs, your fats, your proteins, the fats and proteins obviously being prevalent in the animal foods, well, what do we have going on here? We have fats and proteins that are then filtering out a bunch of pesticide much better than humans are. Whereas with carbohydrates, we're going direct to the source of toxins.
Yeah, just nonsense.
Animals,
no evidence. Let's just play it. There's nothing to refute here, because he's not making any. He's not saying anything.
Came as
but he's the pioneer. He's the pioneer.
Plants have more. Fruits, bananas, honeys, starches, grains. All these things are super high poison when grown industrially. That's the problem, guys. It's the fact that we have all of these plant foods that are grown in such a toxic manner, and so now all of a sudden when you remove them, you're way healthier because your body isn't being given toxins anymore. Sure, it's a little bit more stressed out. It has to now produce sugar from nothing, from proteins. However, it's a lot better off to be a little bit more stressed out, a little bit higher cortisol maybe, with less toxins, than it is to have more toxins and have that little lower stress response from the presence of carbohydrates. Now, this is my theory. This is what I believe to be true. And again, none of us know the answer for sure.
Oh my God, none of us knows the answer. from the mouths of babes. in case of a carnivore diet, right?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know the answer 100%, but based on the evidence we have, there's pretty strong associations. I mean, we can make a pretty good guess, like a pretty good educated inference.
So the whole of science is associations, and even, you know, thermodynamics, it's all from experiments. So everything's just based on models and predicting things, you know, like if you were to do something, would it be replicated? And that's all we're doing. We just know with a high degree of certainty that, you know, more plant-based diets will be more beneficial for health. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, in my chat, Leon Kutstra says, I don't know the answer, so I know no one else does. Yeah, that's a fair point.
Right. And they have these high standards, like for everything else, like they don't do the same thing with like the theory of gravity, or they don't do the same thing with any other type of science. It's just with nutrition. They say, oh no, we don't know 110% for sure, so we don't know anything. It's like, that's not true at all.
Yeah, we don't have isolated twin from birth to death studies.
Right, right.
But there's not a single answer for everyone either, right? We know for sure that the best diet for people, regardless of what your macronutrient breakdown is going to be local foods. You want to eat local foods. You don't want to eat New Zealand lamb if you're in Idaho, right? You don't want to eat Costa Rica bananas if you're in Pennsylvania.
If you're an agency,
Like, why the fuck not? I mean, does a banana in Pennsylvania all of a sudden becomes not healthy or something? I don't understand.
I'm about to make your life a whole lot better. Let's decrease your workload by generating images with AI.
You don't want to eat bananas if you're in London either. Like, it's very simple principles that people want to follow. Eat local foods, right? If it's just meat, it's just meat. But if it's plants, eat local plants. And this is the real remedy. It's eating local organic foods. It's not basing your diet off of a particular macronutrient ratio. And my great-grandmother, she lived so long, and the reason why I believe she lived so long is because, well, she grew up in New York, and from a young age, they ate lots of sweets. Yeah, they ate breads, candies, not candies, but like breads, cakes, cheesecakes, all that stuff. But what are they using for it, right? What are they using for bread? They're using the yeast, the organic, everything's organic. Organic flours, organic oats, everything is organic. And it's high-quality mineralized soils that are providing the.
Is that actually true? Did everything used to be organic in the times of his grandmother, who's supposedly like, I don't know, like 80, 90 years ago? Even less. He's very young. I don't know.
I can't imagine that would have been the case. It's speculation. I don't know the research, but I can't imagine that the standards would have been better back then. Like there was probably way more cross-contamination, probably way looser standards. At least we know that for a fact with meat packing, right? There was that whole thing where there was there was a book based on it. I forgot the book. But it was a whole book about how horrific the meatpacking industry was in like the early 1900s or something, right? Or the 1800s. So yeah, I don't know how. I would guess not.
Yeah, just by the fact that we have more regulations now, the food would be more controlled for, wouldn't it?
Actual raw products. Whereas today, you eat a loaf of bread, you're getting folic acid, which is going to completely poison you. Okay, you're getting a bunch of added preservatives. You're getting inorganic grain, which is known to be insanely toxic due to the high glyphosate content. You're really setting yourself up for failure. But if you eat it back when it was healthy for you, it's not going to mess it up because this is food that is just food. It's just from the earth. It's nature. It doesn't have any additives. It doesn't have any pesticides. Nowadays, when you take out all the plant foods and you just eat Costco or Walmart ground beef, you're eating a lower toxic load. But if you bring in back the organic sourdough, you bring back in whatever organic grains and oats and things that you like, potatoes, rice, whatever you like, it's local to you, you don't get sick from that. You actually improve your health because now your body isn't stressed out anymore. And again, just quickly back to my great-grandmother. So she grew up eating all these high-quality foods, tons and tons of meats. They ate lots of brains and thyroids and stuff around the bones. They were great cooks, livers, like all that stuff. And that's what she ate throughout her entire life. And even as food started to become worse, and at the grocery store they start to inject the meat with more garbage and they do more bad stuff to the meat, she's still going to the farmer's market. And pretty much up to the point she died, she would walk from kind of the Westwood area to Santa Monica with her cart, fill up her cart.
Oh no, I can't believe she died. They did live forever with her amazing diet.
At the Westwood or at the Santa Monica farmer's market on Wednesdays, which is there like every Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 1. She would go do that. She would go back home on a cart, and she would only eat that food. She wasn't eating.
And also, sorry, just to interject. Also, she was walking a ton. So he just said she's walking to the farmer's market, walking back. What do we do less and less of every single year? Walk, exercise. So it's not just the lack of glyphosate. It's also probably less exercise in people nowadays.
Yeah, probably less pollution.
Yeah, and the glyphosate, he still hasn't provided any evidence for that claim. And I like the mention of sourdough bread, though. I'm a big fan of sourdough bread.
Me too.
As for flavor, or does it have actually like an added nutritional value or something?
The texture is quite nice. I like the texture of it.
All right.
Yeah, Patrick doesn't go off of the science. He only eats based on feel, right, Patrick?
Yeah.
Long time because intuitively she knew, well, I want to eat the food that I was eating when I was a little girl, when I was younger. Yeah, she ate cakes. Yeah, she made breads. But it was the highest quality stuff that's not poisonous. High quality food from the earth, if it's around you, is not going to be poisonous to your body. And
Wait,
I think
wait.
this is the biggest.
High quality food from the earth is not going to be poisonous to your body. I'm sure that it's possible to find something from the earth that will kill you.
Yeah, I guess I would need to expand on his, because high quality food, anything could be food. Any type of plant or animal doesn't mean they're not poisonous. And also,
Well, again, I would say charitably.
Charitably, yeah,
Is
yeah.
meant by food is meant by food.
I don't hold charity for anybody. Okay, I'm here to get down to business. But also,
Listen, I made the promise at the beginning of the stream. We're gonna try to be charitable. I
Okay,
broke that
okay.
promise many times, but I'm holding you accountable.
Fair enough. Thank you. And also the cakes. So like, here's the thing: whether I don't care how organic it is, a bunch of added sugar is just not going to be beneficial for your health. It's just empty calories. So, right, Patrick? Would you say that?
Yeah, like if someone's overeating, the most, just a cake made from a few ingredients and just a load of sugar, that might not be the best for health. If it's just 15 or 100 tablespoons of sugar, which is from very minimal processing.
Yeah, it doesn't
If
matter
you
if it's full organic. If that's all you're eating, you're missing a lot of things there.
If you're just eating sugar, it's not going to be some elixir to optimal health.
Yeah, I have to add a tangent. Whenever I'm doing a recipe like of something sweet that comes from an American creator, I half the amount of sugar, and it's still usually too sweet. So I don't know what's going on there in America, but do you guys eat something that I think can be classified as a shit ton of sugar? And,
Cap and Crunch. I'm telling you, when you have a chance, I'm telling you, it's just all sugar, and it's sugar and corn, and it's so good. But yeah, a lot of sugar over here for sure.
But I'd like to add that basically anything can be part of a healthy diet. So if you enjoy how do you say Cap'n Crunch? Yeah, it can be part of a healthy diet.
That's true. No, that's a great point. Like, it really is about making it work for you. And I think that's what also a lot of people who go plant-based, they like forget that it's important to do what works for you. Like, for example, I'll give you a great example. So I've been trying to figure out, because I like to eat foods consistently because I've got a busy schedule. If I have to think about what I'm eating, I'm just going to eat junk, right? So, if I have to cook something that has all of the best vegetables, the best beans, everything every single week, guess what? That doesn't work for my schedule. So then I end up eating, a bowl of cereal instead of legumes, or I end up eating, like something that I would be worse, something, instead of eating the better thing, I end up eating the cereal, right? But if I were to just find a meal that has some good stuff like legumes or something that works for me and my schedule, that's better than eating the best thing available. Does that make sense? You know what I'm saying, Patrick?
Yeah, so I only eat canned beans, for example. I never cook my beans.
But
I
cannot be bothered.
cook my beans.
You what, sorry?
I obsessively cook my beans. I don't like the beans from a can. I mean, they're delicious, but they make my tummy hurt.
But yeah, that's the thing. It's about like consistency, and it's better to eat what works for you, even if that includes some added sugar, even that includes whatever, than to try and be a purist and eat only raw fruits and vegetables and end up abandoning it, or end up doing something worse off for your health anyway.
I like the idea of consistency. So similar sort of meals is also good for people. It can be good for people to sort of have some sort of routine. For example, I have a similar structure of meals every day with minimal cooking.
Yeah, I need it. Otherwise, I'm just gonna cook pancakes every day. I'm just gonna go off the rails,
Lesson that I've learned on Carnivore. Again, not to bash the diet or bash anyone who's doing it. I think it's a part of the journey, and I also think that when you immerse yourself in a very cult-like environment, like Carnivore, where everyone has like the cult leaders, like the YouTubers who are doing.
Oh my God!
Wow.
The admission of a century.
Carnivore
the
is a cult.
Carnivore community is a cult. Holy.
Crazy.
If we ever become ex-vegans, are we also gonna call it a cult? Is my question, because I was questioned on our endeavor through the bite model. How can we go through veganism while being vegan ourselves?
If I ever become ex-vegan, something is very, very wrong. And I encourage you guys to call my loved ones and get me admitted somewhere, because I've been plant-based almost 7 years, vegan almost 7 years, actually this month. And I just can't imagine, I eat like I've been eating well for this entire time. So I just can't imagine going off the rails like that. I just don't know. But
I think now that I know the bite model, I'll need to somehow, same as you, Brandon, there was something will be going completely wrong, but I would have to have found some flaws in the bite model, because right now in our first episodes, veganism is getting really no applies to all the different points we're seeing in the model.
Yeah, I was actually surprised by how much meat eating seems to have some correlation, but we'll see at the end. I don't want to speculate. In fact, I'm scared of speculating because I'm still convinced that it's not cold. Okay.
By the way, Brandon, you mentioned pancakes. I wanted to ask, do you have a good recipe for pancakes?
No. So usually what I'll do is there's two things. I'll either get a pre-made pancake mix, but it's I don't know if you guys don't have Bob's Red Mill over there, right? So it's just really they actually have really good pre-made stuff. So they have like a 7-grain pancake mix. So high fiber, high protein. It's got like a ton of different grains in it. So I'll usually either buy that, or I'll just find like a vegan pancake recipe on Google, and I'll just use whatever the best one comes up as.
What do you normally use as a binder?
Good question. Soy milk. So I use soy milk, and then I use applesauce. So I find the applesauce and the soy milk are great substitutes. I usually don't add oil. If I do, it's like maybe a little bit of like light olive oil, or maybe a little bit of canola oil or something. And that's it. And then flour or whatever flour I want to use, and that's it.
Unfortunately, I've not seen any of these vegan pancake mixes where I am.
You gotta look. I'm sure, once you move where you're headed, you'll find more. But yeah, it's really convenient, and they're really good.
I rarely buy shit in like pre-mixed stuff, so I have no idea. I don't think there is a vegan or any kind of a pancake mix. I don't think I ever seen one, but I might be not searching for it either. So
there is so much pre-made stuff here. Pretty much everything is pre-made in the United States, and as like, I don't want to say as sad as that is, it's also really awesome, because there's a lot of great vegan, like Patrick likes to say, health promoting pre-made or processed foods that you just wouldn't get otherwise. And it's really for like a full year and a half, I lived off of like a really good vegan ramen that I just made in the microwave. But it was high protein, high fiber, low sodium. It was great. So that's really convenient.
all right. Patrick, does he ever get back to God, actually?
From what I remember, I don't think so.
So is there a point in continuing? Because I am getting a little tired.
Okay, yeah, if you guys are done, I'm done then. I will concede. But that's just crazy how he mentioned it. Like, that was his whole awakening, and then just never talks about it ever again.
If you want, we can just skip to the last minute and see if there's any mention.
Probably really shocking to a lot of you, this idea that you can actually consume sugar and still be healthy, when there was this whole idea that, no, the reason why we're sick is because of sugar, refined grains, seed oils. Seed oils and sugar are not in the same category. Sugar and seed oils are not the same thing. They're very different. Seed oils are processed
He's still anti-seed oil. That's interesting.
and refined and toxic. Sugar is not toxic. Sugar is a plant that's hardly processed, and you can get unprocessed sugar, unrefined sugar as well. It's organic. So this is kind of the conclusion that I've come to. I'll do what I eat in the video if you guys want, and I'm more than happy to do that and go over that stuff. But I'm seeing a lot of people wake up. A lot of people start to incorporate plants back, kind of following Paul Saladino, who's right on a lot of things, but he also believes in evolution, which is ridiculous. But that's kind of, like, I'll make more videos on this stuff if you guys want. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it makes sense. And let me know if you have any comments, questions, concerns. And see you in the next one.
When he says sugar, I'm just confused. Is he saying like sugar cane, like granulated sugar, or is he referring to carbs? Because at the end there, he said you could get unrefined sugar. It sounds like he's talking about literal sugar and not just carbs anymore. So I'm confused by that. And then
sugar is minimally processed.
Yeah, and also because earlier he was talking about carbs, but then now at the end it sounds like he's talking about sugar. And then he doesn't give any argument for why evolution is ridiculous. He just says it's ridiculous, which I find amusing.
I have nothing to add, guys. I have nothing to add.
Too good.
So yeah, I didn't enjoy the video, but I did enjoy the company. So I really appreciate this endeavor. So thank you.
I think we offered lots of insights here. Unfortunately, nothing about ethics in the video. Just about personal stories.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thanks everyone for joining in. If you've got any recommendations for stuff you'd like us to react to in the future video, definitely send it in. we're open to everything, and preferably something which has potentially some citations in the video so we can check it.
Not gonna happen, Patrick. Only videos with no citations are what the carnivores produce.
And then, yeah, we'll be back